What's up, Tiger fans? It's Morgan Thomas here with another video. This time I'm going to talk about DJ Uiagalelei's recent interview with the media this week back on September 27th. And he talks about the main thing for Clemson is to just get back to the basics and execute on every single play as they've been doing in practice and transition it to on the field on Saturday. They get ready to play Boston College. I'm going to get into his comments and more in this video. Before I do, make sure you like this video and you subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us over on Facebook so you can stay up to date on all of my exclusive Clemson content I put out every single week. And don't forget to check me out over on 105.5 and 97.5 The Roar live Thursday night, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. every Thursday night through football season. So we really appreciate the partnership there with the local radio station in South Carolina. All right, so Clemson, as you know, is struggling right now on offense. They're 105th in the nation in scoring offense, 121st in the nation in total offense, 99th in the nation in rushing, and 115th in passing. If you follow me over on Twitter at The Morgan T Show, you'll notice that these numbers are far below anything that Clemson has done, at least in the last 20 years. And so this is very different territory for the Tigers and something that fans, players, coaches alike all want to correct and correct quickly. But DJ came out and was asked, some of the difficult questions, which a lot of the star players are. And he came out and said, you know what? The first thing was he's never lost 2 regular season games in his career. And so this type of adversity is going to be different for him, but going to show what kind of man he is, what kind of player he is. I think Dabo Swinney also mentioned this on his Tiger Calls on Mondays on the radio, that losing in a playoff game or losing the very last game of the season is not adversity. It's a different type of adversity. It's a different type of loss. You immediately go home and you start the season all over again, and you just reset from there because it's the very last game. So a lot of different emotions and feelings and, lack of adversity, I guess you could say, from losing the very last game of the season. This now is the 4th game of the season, and they've lost 2 games already. They're getting ready to go into Boston College, a night game in Death Valley, and they're 2-2. First time that they've been 2-2 for quite some time. And I will be in the stadium looking forward to seeing what the Tigers can put together. I know a lot of fans are frustrated, and rightfully so, but also players and coaches are as well. When asked about what Clemson can do differently to improve, he kept going back to the basics and saying that it was all about the basics, getting everybody on page, executing perfectly on every single play, executing to the way you're supposed to on every single play, and having everybody in alignment doing the right thing. When there's one person out of sync from everybody else, it can throw everything off. It can cause the offensive line to make a mistake, cause the running game to make a mistake, cause the wide receivers to make a mistake, and then ultimately the quarterback and the entire offense looks terrible as a result. So it is one thing that where I think that, it does take everybody being on the same page. DJ also mentions that the chemistry is there. They're familiar with each other. If you listen to the radio show, I talk about, I wish they would just go out to Waffle House and maybe get a dinner together and just kind of enjoy each other so that they can take that onto the field. DJ says they already have that. The chemistry's there. They're familiar with each other. They trust the process. And the reason why they all came to Clemson was so that they could challenge themselves. And that's why they're here. And so I feel like Clemson is the right place for them. I feel like Clemson has the coaches and the staff in place to improve. We have to go on what has happened in the past with Dabo Swinney's coaching staff. We have seen that Dabo Swinney has been able to make changes when needed. And we have seen that Dabo Swinney has been able to field an elite team for multiple years. So if you're looking at statistically what is an outlier, the other years were not an outlier. I know it can be frustrating, and it can kind of seem like, well, everything else was an outlier, and this is the end of a dynasty, and this is the end of everything for Clemson. Everything else was just a joke or maybe even luck. But statistically, the outlier is the number that is completely different than everyone else. And right now, it's these rankings on the offense. The way the offense is performing is not normal to what you see from Clemson. And that's why it's so confusing. But also, I think one thing can be encouraging because it can't possibly stay this way, considering the type of staff and the type of coach Dabo Swinney is and type of players that they recruit. Again, it's going to take a process. They're going to have to trust the process. When asked about his mechanics, when asked about his touch, as far as DJ is concerned, he feels like that he has good touch. He feels like he does well with his mechanics in practice. He does feel like that he has to make it easier for the wide receivers in the games, and he has to make sure that he takes what he does in practice and move it forward into a game. And, a lot of players we can see over the years have needed to do that. Cornell Powell, for example, a guy Dabo always talked up about when it come to practice, when it come to Fridays and Thursday nights. But Saturdays never seem to get it together. DJ is kind of in that same spot. I wouldn't say hopefully it's going to take till he's a fifth-year senior, but I will say that he's kind of in that same spot where it seems to be working together in practice but not doing so much in the game. He says it's not because of confidence, because he has a total confidence in himself. He's not a quitter, and he looks forward to seeing what he can do in response to adversity. Obviously, there's not just adversity Clemson has to face, because Clemson also has two major injuries that they're having to deal with. Really three, but James Skalski is going to be back and just had a slight shoulder issue during the previous game. But Brian Bascis not going to be playing for the rest of the year, torn his ACL. Thoughts and prayers to him and his family for that recovery there. DJ is a good friend of Brian's, and he said that it's definitely tough on them right now. And then also you have Will Shipley, who thankfully did not end his season with that knee injury, and he will be back, but it's not going to be anytime soon. So Clemson's going to have to go into reach into their depths of the running back depth, because, as you know, Lynn J. Dixon has already left the team and has decided he's going to go elsewhere and get into the transfer portal. So Phil Maffa is going to have to jump in and really take control in that second string spot. I think it's very telling. I said this again over on Twitter. It's very telling to me. I talked him up big time in the offseason. I think Phil Maffa is great. He looked good in the spring game, and then he was on the redshirt track, and that kind of confused me. I think it's because Will Shipley is more ready, and so that was why they gave Will the nod first before Phil, and they said, hey, we're going to put Phil and make him 1 year behind so that they can kind of be in staggered, right? Well, I think now obviously you can't do that. So Phil is going to have to step up and make some plays. I think he can, because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Tiger fans out there, but he was one of, if not the only running back to score a touchdown in the spring game. And he had another big gain in the spring game as well. So I look forward to seeing what he can do. I love his tape. I love his fan base. He's got a big follower, kind of like a Joe type. He's got a big following there. And so I look forward to seeing his family and friends and his following out there cheering him on. Again, I'm a type of fan where I have not gone to games because of them being blowouts. Now I'm actually on the flip side. I'm actually encouraged and excited to see what this team can do, how they can rebound. I mean, yes, they could keep doing the same old same and have a terrible offense for the rest of the season, but how awesome would it be to actually watch this team figure it out? I think that would be great. You know, there's a lot of great things you can say. I watched Deshaun Watson win the national championship game, and I'll never forget that. But, you know, this could be one of those life-teaching events for all these young men, and to be able to witness it and to see them grow and do better, I think it'd be great as a fan, as a coach, player, whatever. So give them some time. Let's see what they can do. Let's see if they can continue to execute. The ACC championship game is not out of reach. Maybe the playoffs, maybe not out of reach, but they definitely have to completely turn things around 180 and just start blowing people out, you know, consistently every single week. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I will say that all they need to do is keep focusing on the very next game. They have 4 ACC games that they have to win in order to continue their quest to another ACC championship game. So we'll see what they can do. Another thing that I think is something that the team has been needing to address or been having to work through is that this offense doesn't look the same as normal. If you look past the past couple of years, or the past 10 years, they've always had a go-to slot wide receiver that was not a really tall outside guy. Justin Ross is a tall outside guy. They told us that DeAndre Overton would be able to do it. He wasn't able to do it. They told us that Justin Ross is able to do it. And really, he's too much of a number one receiver to be in that slot. He's getting way too many of the looks right now, especially from the last game. He got, I think, majority of the passes. And so I don't think that that's a good spot for him. I'd like to see him move to the outside. That's just my personal opinion there. We'll see what Clemson can do. But again, they have a ton of outside guys. So if you move him, then you're taking away from someone else that is also a really good wide receiver. They have a little bit of too many wide receivers on the outside and really non-existent for a traditional slot guy. Think about their slot guys that they've had. Adam Humphries, Amari Rogers, Artavis Scott, and the legendary Hunter Renfrow. Those guys are not like Justin Ross. And I think Clemson's having to get some growing pains with that and figure it out. I think DJ also is having to learn who is his go-to guy. There has to be a number one guy, but there also has to be that third and Renfrow guy. There has to be that guy that you really feel like can get separation. I watched a Raiders highlight from last weekend, and Hunter Renfrow did about 3 moves to get open and score a touchdown. Is there someone on this wide receiver core that can get open and make space and make moves and do things that are not necessarily on the drawing board, but maybe something that you can do on the field to get open? I challenged the wide receivers this year to get open, to help their quarterback, and also for DJ, he's already challenged himself. If you watch his interview, he's already challenged himself to help make it better for the wide receivers, put the wide receivers in a better position so that they can make plays themselves. Let's see what Clemson can do against Boston College. Hey, let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear from you, Tiger fans, and we'll see you on the top of the hill.